my big thing today. I just don't understand. Like, let me say it again. I understand it. However, find it unproductive. How many people right now are lined up to say, that they've had it with Steve Kerr's rotations? And that's not to tell you that I think that Steve Kerr's rotations have been great or that he's had a great year. He hasn't. He's come on our show and said that. So I don't think there's any mystery there. What I just finally reached was this point where every time someone goes, okay, I watched the game last night, and if Steph Curry didn't come in till 6 minutes left to go, he should have been in when there were 8 minutes to go. Okay. And then what? Let's say even if they had won. All right. Now they're 37 and 33 and still firmly entrenched in the 10 seed. I just feel like we've reached a point where you can't keep saying this rotation mistake. I don't understand why Wiggins is in and JK is out. If that's your opinion after these games, it sounds to me like you think that the solution for the Warriors is on the bench or in the building. And I've reached a point where I don't even see how you can feel that way at this point. They're not a tweak away from being good.
Agreed. And if we were to rank in no particular order the things that have irked you about this Warrior team being 2 games above 500, 36 and 34 after 70 games, in no particular order, things that irk me more than Steve Kerr minute allocation would include Draymond Green missing almost half the season due to suspensions and other issues. Andrew Wiggins' continued regression toward the old K-Wig days, soft and warm R&B on the weak side. Klay Thompson's erratic shooting year. He's 10th to last in the association among qualified players in field goal percentage. I would rank all 3 of those things above Steve Kerr's minutes allocation. Just a quick 3. 3 things right there, boom, boom, boom. Things that irk me more than the way Steve works his personnel.
I guess it's not even a matter, though, like I hear you, although for me it's not even a matter of whether or not it irks you. It can irk you.
Oh, it can.
And
maybe that's the 4th. And you know what irks me more? Is their inability to close out games. Blowing leads and recklessly turning the ball over. And that, to me, is not rotational. That oftentimes was some of your best players playing badly with huge leads. That bothers me more than Steph playing 30 minutes on a Sunday night.
I'm with you across the board, but I also think, again, the idea of it irking you or anybody pointing out Steve Kerr shouldn't have done this or shouldn't have done that, I can sit here and nod my head the whole time. I get it. But if that's your frustration, if that's the thing you want to point to, if you want to look at Warrior basketball right now and go, gosh, I just don't get what Steve Kerr is doing with these rotations. Doesn't that mean that you think that if the rotations were different, the Warriors would be in a completely different reality as far as the playoffs are concerned, or contention even? Like, it's always been true, but the deeper we get into this thing, the more reality really sets in, where it's like, you're not the 5 seed and you're like, man, we could be the 3. You're the 10, and you don't know if you can hold off the Rockets. That's not, man, Podziemski shouldn't be starting. Like, that's not that. You are barely above 500. And at home, you're below 500. That is, you are far away. And so I put these things now in the same bucket. Whether it's Steve Kerr's rotations that has you distracted or the play-in tournament that has you distracted. There's 12 more games to go, and we'll see where this ends up. But I am at a spot now where I feel like it is highly likely that in another month or so, we're going to sit down and have a conversation about massive changes. And I don't even know what changes are available. But the direction that the boat is pointing has got to be moved completely. if this thing continues for 12 more games and nothing exciting happens.
Right.
Which seems likely. Like out of the 10 seed, even getting out of the play-in tournament is pretty wild, to be honest with you.
And I think about, you and Guru today in the crossover talking about the Lakers and that bet that could still be consummated. And it would be a consummation sensation, Mark, as you know.
And will be.
For the Lakers, or even let's use the Warriors for an example. For the Warriors to make it out of the play-in and get in the playoffs and win a playoff series as the 10 seed, they would have to win 6 of 9 games, including 4 of those on the road. And you'd have to win 2 road games to get in the playoffs. Then you'd have to go to Denver right now, and in a best of 7, you'd have to beat them 4 times. And if it went 7, 4 of those games would be on the road. So if you win 6 of 9 and you beat the Nuggets in 7, you would have gone on the road, won 2 elimination games, and then won in Denver at least once.
Yeah, 6 of 9.
And held serve at home.
Right.
So you're telling me that this team that we've seen over the course of 70 games, not small sample size Steve anymore, this team's going to be capable of winning 6 of 9, including 6 of those games on the road? Feels like a stretch to me right now.
You think?
Yeah.
That is a bet.
And just one note on the Steph Curry minutes thing.
Sure.
And I heard Steiny make a mention to something about this earlier in his show, but in the 9 games that Steph has played 36 or more minutes this year, the team is 1-8.
Say that one more time now.
Steph Curry's played 36 or more minutes 9 times. They are 1-8 in those games.
Yeah.
And his plus minus in those games is a -5.
Maybe I was just in a negative headspace. It's very, very possible that I was
Not
just
you.
No, it happens.
It's rare.
I don't mean that like overall.
It's usually accompanied by a migraine.
That's a good point.
See, I know that about you.
I didn't have one last week.
That a boy?
Crap, I shouldn't have said that out
Well,
loud.
it makes me feel bad because I was gone most of the week. Hello.
I think we figured it out.
I think we have.
No, I don't mean that I was in a negative headspace like about life, but maybe I was in a negative headspace about the Warriors as I sat down to watch the game yesterday. I got to be real, and I just have to tell you what was happening in my belly during the game. I felt like they were going to lose the whole time.
And that's unlike you.
And they were up, and they were up early. And maybe that's actually why I thought they were going to lose, because I'm like, you're up early. You're often up early. I've seen you get up early. I've seen you get up against good teams early. A lot. What I've learned in professional sports, especially the NBA, is that, we're not used to this right now over the last 12 years of Golden State Warriors basketball. But a lot of times, like when you're the good team and you're like, ooh, they snuck away with one tonight. They didn't have their fastball, but they were able to gut it out, and they pulled out kind of a sleepy game against Charlotte or something like that. When you see that, that's the cadence of professional basketball. It doesn't mean you snuck it out or you blew a lead. No, the good team in the fourth quarter goes, all right, here's what we need to do to win, and they do it. And that's what's happened to the Warriors so much this year. So it is less in my mind.
To them, not for them.
No, it's not. So,
right.
The Warriors blew it. No, they were the worst team. They were the worst team, and the other team went, okay, fourth quarter time. Let's do the damn thing. And whether it's the Clippers or the Pelicans or the T-Wolves or the Nuggets, the teams that have erased these deficits against the Warriors, they're not rallying. They're just the better team. And that's how pro sports works a lot of the time. So I watched that whole game last night through one eye. And I'm like, be up by 9 with 5 minutes to go, and you'll have my attention. And they got to the fourth quarter, and they were immediately down by 6. And I'm like, yeah, they're not winning this game. They're not winning this game.
I mean, you pick through the play-by-play, and they had the lead almost the entire game.
Of course.
And, it was anywhere between 1 and 13, I think was the high water mark, and the Warriors were never able to get to that magic 20, or you get up 20, 25, and now you're
boogieing.
For most teams, you put that thing away, but for the Warriors, you still kind of hold your breath this year a little bit, but it's that third quarter. And that's why people are so up in arms, because Steph goes out and the lead dwindles at the end of the third, and then to start the fourth, the game flipped.
Right.
And so by the time he came back in, now it's got to be Curry to the rescue.
Yeah, except for like you have an example 48 hours earlier where they're just like, fine, Steph, stay in there. How'd that go? Get run off their own floor by a so-so basketball team.
Right. And it's because you're asking a 36-year-old who is still in great shape, and he's still one of the best players in the association, but on game 70 of 82, and Steph has played almost every game this year. I think he's played 66, or no, he's maybe 64 games, but you're asking him, 64. Mm-hmm. He's played all but 6 games. And so now you're asking him deep into March to go out there and give you 35, 36 minutes, and you got 5 games in 7 nights. It's a big ask.
What if I go through a painful exercise real quick before we go to the phones?
Let's do it.
Painful exercise. Just to give you a sense of where the Warriors sit. Why don't I just start naming NBA teams? You raise your hand or make a noise.
Oh.
That's fine.
I'll leave the second part out.
When we get to the first team that you feel like the Warriors are clearly better than.
Oh, thank you, Grandy.
Okay.
I hate Mark Grandy.
Ready?
Sounds great.
All right. Denver Nuggets.
Wiggins voice.
You're not supposed to make any noise.
Okay, start over.
3, 2. Denver Nuggets. Oklahoma City Thunder. Minnesota Timberwolves. LA Clippers. New Orleans Pelicans. Phoenix Suns. Sacramento Kings. Dallas Mavericks. Los Angeles Lakers. Boston Celtics. Milwaukee Bucks. Cleveland Cavaliers. New York Knicks. Orlando Magic. Indiana Pacers. Miami Heat. Philadelphia 76ers. Chicago Bulls.
Oh.
Okay, there's your first noise. That took forever.
Yeah, it did.
I just named way more than half the league.
You named about 16 teams, I think. There's a couple of borderlines in there, but I thought 18th, about New York. And
18th team. The 18th
New York
team
just
was the one
clipped you.
Yep.
And, you got Miami coming up.
Sixers, I wasn't sure what you were going to say because they don't have Embiid, but they're still 7 games
and
over
you
500.
Swept Philly.
Yeah. I mean, there are not that many teams left.
Right. Yeah, there's 7 above 500. Wow.
Not that many teams left.
No, so, and even if you got to Houston, I didn't know what I was going to say because right now, Houston's better than you.
Well, they've won 8 basketball games in a row.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're playing like a team that is hungry.
On a mission.
Yes, they're hungry for the 10 seed. And, in the crossover, we talked about this, the relative hunger of a 4-time champion, how much you're going to fight, scratch and claw, just to get to that 10 spot, just to get into the play-in. I don't really fault them too much for not looking at the fight for the 10 seed as something that's, do or die or an absolute must. These guys have played a ton of basketball games over the course of a 10-year championship window run. And remember, they went to 2 other finals. They got 4 titles and 2 other finals that they didn't win.
Yeah.
These dudes have played a lot of basketball.
A ton. And I thought about that too, with the idea though that like sometimes it must be triggering for other fan bases to listen to us sometimes though. When things don't go well for the Warriors, it's because they're tired and unmotivated. And I do think there's something to that. But also, when can you get yourself to a point where you just go, and also because the other teams are better?
Right, I'm there.
Yeah, the Warriors are not unmotivated. They're not as good. And my whole thing in saying that is not like, ooh, come with the hammer. No, it's just like I hope that the Warriors as a franchise assess themselves correctly in the offseason. That's my only hope right now. Be real. Be honest, assess yourselves correctly. Don't let the play-in tournament or whatever happens in it, if you're in it, distract you from how many teams I just mentioned that are better than you.
Right.
And then you got to do something about that. And
that is a big topic for the offseason, and I'll save my real in-depth answer for hopefully a long time from now. But really, the season, they got 12 games left. His baby could be over here in about 2.5 weeks.
Houston in action right now.
Do we have a live update?
Hosting the Portland Trailblazers.
Do we go to the update desk?
Of the Western Conference. And with 8:05 to go in the first quarter, the Rockets are already down by 7.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Chokers.
That's right. We'll see if they can play from behind. The Blazers are bringing it. Let's go to Rich in Fremont. Hi, Rich. What are you doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call. I just want to say this right now, and this is hard for me to say because I'm a diehard Warriors fan. I met CJ Charles Johnson when I was 9 years old. He lived around the corner from me in Redwood City, and I didn't even know it until I actually met him. I was, taking it tough during the Cohen years. So I've watched this franchise pretty much, reinvigorate itself to championship status. And so they're where they are now. And I'm just thinking, look, this team is doomed if they don't do these 4 things. Number 1, defending the 3-point shot. I'm sorry, they're doing this terribly. This is awful, okay? Number 2, offensive support for Steph. And I'm saying this across the board. The team has been inconsistent, okay, when Steph has been on. Transition defense. Oh, my God. Guys, come on. You're jogging down after a shot is made? You're trading baskets. That's terrible. Ability to produce both defense and offense in the fourth quarter. They don't do these 4 things, they're done. They're done. Tell me what you guys think. Thanks.
Rich, thanks. Sometimes in the NBA, and I do find this to be not frustrating. What's the right word? Like the NBA to me is the most predictable sport.
Of the big 3?
Yeah, absolutely. You got the best chance at the beginning of the year to be like, those 2 teams, those are your, not the 2-3 teams, those are your contenders. Patrick Mahomes in the NFL maybe ruins that thought a little bit, but I find the NFL to have a lot of twists and turns and surprises. And same thing in baseball where half the league's not even trying. And so it's like, yeah, I know the Dodgers are going to be good. I know the Braves are going to be good, but it's baseball and somebody could fist a ball out into the outfield and win the World Series over the better team.
And it's tough, though, for the Rockies to go from what we think of them
no
to
doubt.
90 wins in a wild card.
But in the NBA, even what Rich is saying, they got to do this better. They got to do that better. Right. They could do all that. To me, that feels like Steve Kerr's rotations. He's got to coach better. They could do all of those things, and they still don't have Giannis on their team. They don't have Jokic on their team. The other teams, when the Warriors played 5-6 years ago, they didn't have Steph Curry and Kevin Durant on their team. So they lost. Now, there are exceptions. I would argue that 2 years ago was a little bit of a surprise. Maybe the Celtics were top to bottom the better basketball team. But you had Steph still completely at the height of his powers. You had Andrew Wiggins playing inspired basketball. Kevon Looney too. Jordan Poole still, everything was going in the right direction, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a little bit of a surprise, but it was only a little bit of a surprise. The Warriors were still on a short list of teams you liked on the way in. That's it. They're not on the short list anymore. So that's it in the NBA. If you're not on the short list, you're out.
You're not on the long list. You can be on the long list, like Miami last year was on the long list.
Yeah,
they were a play-in team. Boston 2 years ago, they were on the long list, and then you mentioned it, they were a 500 team in late January. They got hot. They got in the playoffs. They ran the East, and they were damn close to winning the NBA title. So you can go from being where the Warriors were 2 months ago to where you'd want to be, and they showed signs. They went 14-4 over an 8-game stretch, and then Steph Curry got hurt against Chicago, and then you lost a couple games while he was out, and then he came back, and you gacked a couple away, and now you've lost 2 in a row, and it feels like you're kind of back to square one where you were before you went on that great little run that coincided with Draymond's return. So Draymond comes back after the suspension, and everything starts to click, and Pods is still doing, rookie all-first team things, and TJD emerges, and Wiggins came back from his absence. Clay comfortable on the bench. Here comes CP3. You still have the chef. GP2's back. It felt like everything was humming toward a big, good climactic finish, and yet here we are again, picking through the wreckage of bad rotations and no transition defense.